Of course, out of all the days. There we are. Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome on this beautiful Friday. I am Dr. Misbah Qureshi with an amazing team of mental health professionals, experts, where we will be honoring our Mental Health Awareness Month in May. And today we have a very special topic. And we are going to be discussing children's mental health. So, welcome. I hope you guys, some of you who are working from home, taking a lunch break, some of you that just kind of need to get away and have some robust conversations or participation. This is the place to be on Friday, May 23rd at 1 p.m. EST. So, with that, I am live from Towson, Maryland. United States of America. I want to highlight that because we also have, people attending internationally and globally, right? So we are all here from the United States. So I would love to start off by having my experts introduce themselves, and then I will be the last person to introduce myself for those of you that don't know me. So with that, ladies, happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
So who wants to start?
I can start. Hello, everyone. Happy day. I'm Erica Kessie, a love force with mysterious wisdom, celebrating life. I'm a multifaceted leader and mommy, a licensed professional counselor, as well as a founder of a Thrive Oasis, which is beneficial for mothers to get away and be able to reset so that they can be an influence well for our children. And I am very much excited about sharing more about how I have a specialty in play and expressive arts therapy. And with that specialty, I like to work with children, but also inner children and their families. So, yes, I cannot wait to have this conversation.
I love
Well,
that.
thank you so much, Erica, for being here today. And then maybe we can go to the next Erica. Spring.
Hi. Yes, happy Friday, everyone. I'm Erica Spring. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I am located north of Kansas City. I've been in practice a long time, and I'm not going to age myself today. And I started out my career with a special passion with working with children. When I did my first practicum, I was actually at a site that was providing forensic interviews for children who had been abused and assaulted. And so I eventually became trained in EMDR, and that is my preferred method of working with people of all ages with various wounds, namely trauma. And so I too am a mom, which means that I have to practice what I preach every day, right? And I also am a writer and budding podcaster. So thank you again for having me.
Thank you so much for being here and bringing your special expertise, not only with EMDR, which I think I would love to talk a little bit more about that because everyone doesn't know acronyms, right? Those are our clinical acronyms.
Yeah.
But also the fact that you can integrate your professional experience and your personal experience, right? So it's kind of like not do as I say, not as I do. It's more and so practice what you preach, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Great to have you here, both Ericas, and then my special dear friend from Maryland, Lorianne.
Hi,
Welcome.
everybody. Yes, I'm Lorianne Brown. I'm an LCPC here in Maryland, and currently I'm on the highway because I had a client emergency. so I wasn't able to make it back to the office in time. But I'm the owner of Release and Govern Therapeutic Services. My background, I've been a program director working with adults and children for many years at a PRP program. I am I'm an author as well. I have an agency called Umbrella Ministries where I write kids' books and devotionals. Let's see what else. I'm a mom as well. I have a beautiful 10-year-old girl. And as Erica Spring said, it's practicing what you're preaching basically to your clients and learning. Because even my child, sometimes I have to just be patient with her, and then the emotional regulation piece of it. And she has taught me a lot before I even got into the field about children and how to navigate them. And one of the things that about that is I've learned a lot of us, because we've passed through that stage and now we're adults, we don't realize that we're actually dealing with another human being. It's not just do as I say, not as, do as I say, not as I do type thing. And she has, trust me, before I got immersed into the field, I had to step back and really learn that. So I've really enjoyed that portion, and then bringing that also to my clients. A lot of other stuff that I do, I can't bring them to mind right now, but I'm Lorian. It's a pleasure to meet everybody.
Thank you, Lorianne, for being here, along with both of our Ericas. So I myself, I have a passion for families. I met Lorianne a little while ago through work, actually, collaboration. She was a director in a PRP program, and, I made some referrals. And then, things just kind of hit off, and years later, here we are. And then the amazing Ericas, I met you guys earlier this month with another mental health awareness panel, which went so amazing. I was like, I need to get on their schedule.
So that is Erica Kessie.
Yes, absolutely. I was like, I need to get on their schedule. I need to work with them more. So, we just collaborated, and here we are for another amazing panel. And I am also hosting another one on men's mental health next Friday. So please remember to tune in at 12 p.m. EST. And then we're also doing another one for our Parenting in the Trenches podcast with Dr. Tanya Farron, which is going to be maternal and paternal health, guys. So there's ample opportunity in the month of May for us to gather information from some amazing experts. So with that, I myself am a trained marriage and family therapist, and I can't emphasize enough the importance of relationships, right? Yet, where does it all start? It starts with us being conceived as humans, right? It starts with us when we are tucked away safely in our mommy's tummies, right? When we are conceived, and then we are born into this world of relationships. So why did we choose children's mental health? Well, for me, it's because that's where it all starts. It starts the minute you are conceived. We will talk more about that. And I want to kind of ask all you beautiful ladies, why do we need to focus on children's mental health from your end?
I mean, as you said, children are the future, right? That is what, from what I've learned and what I've seen over the years working with kids, the patterns, right? They create the patterns that we implement into them is what they produce into society. And whatever dynamics the household is in, that is what the child produces. So if the family dynamic is broken, and it's not taking, they're not getting any type of resources or aid, that child will then produce that into the society. So I think the children aspect is important, because they are our future. They are our future. And what I've learned is, like, I work with a bunch of families, and even kids with abuse, and the family dynamic is broken. When I work with these children, I always see them as the sweetest. I don't know. I love kids. The sweetest little thing. And it's heartbreaking that a lot of people cannot see them as the sweetest little thing, even in trauma, even in homelessness, even in poverty, whatever the case of the child is. They are to be cared for, you know, they are to be treasured and cherished. And it's very heartbreaking sometimes when you don't see that. And then they, again, as I said, they produce that into, you know, into our society. So it's very, very important that we take care of them at this very tender age, whatever age that they are, that we take very good care of them, because that is our future and that is our society.
So I would chime in
Absolutely.
and say it's not necessarily focused on the children. It is focused on the family. It is focused on the parent, which is why I specifically want to work with the mothers. Like you said, the kids are in the womb, right? From there, we're having problems. I've worked with women who are on drugs or on meth or on something, and then they give birth and their children are taken away from them. So we have to stop them when they're pregnant in order to kind of really work with them in order to be the influence that they need to be. So I really like to, whenever someone brings me a child, I'm looking at the parents. You're not going to drop your child off with me. We're going to be working together. We're all going to learn communication skills. The thing is, the children are easy. They are easy. Because they're not, okay, they just want order, discipline. They just want reliability, safety, right? That's what they want. But it's the parents that are usually the culprits. They have to decide to heal their inner child, and they must not parent their inner child, but parent the child that they have. That's my 2 cents.
I love all those things.
You nailed it.
Love it.
You nailed it. And I love the fact that you brought it back to the life that exists even before the conception of a new life. Right? I actually literally, again, was talking to my brother about this the other day. I'm like, you know, the person that's about to come into the world, the child that's about to come into the world has not chosen this life, right? At all. At all. I mean, there's so many family dynamics around childbirth, around culture, right? Women are parents. Let's just say parents. Parents go through so much to bring a child into this world. Some unwanted, right? Some are, sad to say, some women are rape victims, right? Some are forced into marriages. I recently started working with someone who shared that her husband at that time would impregnate her so she didn't leave him because he found out she was going to leave him. Right. So there are so many dynamics, right? So again, we can do a whole different session on maternal, right? Women's mental health, men's mental health. Yet, I think with children, it is so important because that is your opportunity right there to, if you haven't, to start doing the work you need to do so you can break intergenerational patterns of trauma and abuse. And Erica K, I'm right where you are. We are not a babysitting service. Oh no, this is not respite care. If you are expecting your child to do the work in therapy, you are right there with them, if not in front of them. Why? Co-regulation is important. Communication is important. I can't teach your child what to do when you're not doing it at home. It's that simple for me.
Absolutely. You know,
Right?
I am huge on that as well, coming from that in-home background of doing in-home therapy for people with, limited access, limited resources. Yes, it was not necessarily uncommon for people to try to take that 60 minutes to go catch up on their laundry. And I'm like, no, boo-boo, we're all going to be doing this together. And, I'm not a babysitter and I'm not a repair person. I think when we think about the adverse childhood experiences research that's been around since the early 90s, we've collected enough data to know that when children before the age of 18 encounter these experiences, we're setting them up for failure. Not only in the realm of mental health, but in their physical health and their ability to function as citizens. I think what we're also looking at is that no child is born broken. They are born into broken systems, though. And I've often said this when I've taught parenting classes to people who've lost their children is I've never met a bad child. I have met a lot of bad parents. And again, going back to the systems approach, if we're not working with those parents, and it's not in a shameful, you did wrong. It's in a, you did the best that you could. And now that you know better, let's do better. Right. And so I think that we have to work with these children, not only because they're our future, but because right now suicide is number two. Number two for 8 and up. And how much longer is it going to be till it's number one? And so I consider this to be an epidemic. We don't even have a proper assessment tool for people who are suicidal under the age of 12 that's reliable. So what we doing? That's why we're talking.
Thank you so much for putting that stat in there, Erica. And it's heartbreaking, right? I mean, it's heartbreaking, period, let alone for an age group who hasn't even understood the meaning of life yet, right? And there's a lot of examples of children that have taken their own lives, and some of the reasons obviously go back to cyberbullying or bullying in general, right? But that is such a tough place to be for anyone, right? And also being the parent of a child, being the loved one. So suicide prevention is an epidemic that needs to be addressed at a global level. Actually, it's a pandemic. I would say it's a pandemic too, right? And then I loved your quote. I think you just quoted Maya Angelou in there. Yes.
Well, I do love her.
Do better when you know. When you know better, do better. Right? So with that,
It's
ladies,
100%.
let's go into you guys know, again, you know all about my experience, right? So let's go into talking a little bit about some signs and symptoms and things that, like, as an adult and working with children or as parents, like, what are some things that we can look out for that are warning signs, right? Because kids, they show up and they communicate with us in so many different ways, right? So as we're doing this work, a lot of the work, the clinical work we do is what? Communication and self-expression. And you have so many different age groups where that is the main issue. Everybody, that almost 99.9% of people that come into therapy are there like, I have communication issues. I need to communicate better. I need to self-express. I need to advocate for ourselves, right? And we're talking about grown adults. We are talking about senior adults who have lived 50, 60, even 70 years old. And we're just talking about self-expression, right? So imagine being so young, right? And trying to figure out how to communicate. So let's talk a little bit about some of those ways that we need to be mindful as adults, as a community, as a village. What are some things we should look out for? Because kids definitely have, they communicate in a lot of different ways. That's verbal and nonverbal.
I think it is certainly dependent on the age of the child. I think unanimously, we see a lot of somatic expression when children are not okay, whether they're pre-verbal altogether or they don't have the pragmatic language to express where they're at emotionally. What we can see oftentimes is headaches, stomach aches, nausea, butterflies in the tummy, just random pains that can't be attributed to any known cause. We also I think we typically can tease out what we see as the traditional, prototype of someone who's in distress. If they're crying, if they're withdrawn, if they're sad, if they're making statements, I don't want to be here anymore. They're giving away their items. They're not spending time with their friends. They're not engaging in their hobbies. Those can be very, very obvious and flashing signs. But for people who perhaps are very high functioning in the realm of, say, intelligence, or even maybe gifted or neurodivergent, you're not necessarily going to see this drop off. And in fact, what you see in those populations is perfectionism. So they're actually really good at masking being okay. And people will attribute and say, there's no way so-and-so could be depressed because they've got good grades. They've got a high school diploma. They graduated with honors. I'm here to tell you, those are some of our most severe patients. They are pretending to be okay. And there is one of our biggest challenges is identifying them.
Absolutely.
So I want to definitely agree with everything that you said, Erica. And that's what I was going to mention is they know how to play the game because the parents taught them what to do in order to make sure that the parents feel comfortable. So they're going to do that. So of course the parents are not going to see the signs because they're just basically doing what the parents said that this is the comfortable thing to do. It's when they do something out of the ordinary because they just have suppressed it so much. I see panic attacks. I see doing just different things like being passive aggressive or doing vindictive little things. Like my daughter decided she was going to take all of her panties and all of her little t-shirts that need to be washed and put them in a bag so I couldn't find them in the laundry room. And it was just peculiar for her to do that. Like, why would you do that? But she needed to communicate something with me. She felt a way about interactions that was going on in my life. So we had to sit down and have a conversation. You really have to pay attention to your children. Going back to what you said, Erica, about the suicidal thing. My daughter has had suicidal ideation. She has major depressive disorder. She was touched inappropriately twice. And so I had to sit her down next to me. I mean, we're not going to have this situation. If we need to sit and watch you and make sure you get what you need in order for you to stay in this world, we're going to do that. And maybe you want to be quiet. Maybe you don't want to deal with it, but I'm going to let you know that I'm here and I am here. And I don't care if you don't care, if you don't like me being present. That's the issue with parents. They're not present because they're not even present with themselves. They don't even know how to be with themselves. They don't even know how to sit down and stop being busy doing everything. So they want their kids to be mild-mannered and not do anything. Sit them in front of another thing, sitting in front of the computer all day long, or the laptop, or the video games all day long. You know that fries them. When I stop my daughter from doing all of that. Only thing she watches is one little show. She is a better, well-behaved child when she does not have this interaction, all of these messages that's hitting up into her. She's eating that, she's feeding on that, and she's coming back just not being able to process well. So that is what I'm saying. We have to really watch them. Now, I want to say, I love the part that you said about the village. We're going to have to be bold enough to say something when you see something. I have lost several friends who were not good mamas because I had to tell them about what was going on, what I was seeing in their child. I had to speak up. And then, of course, that's why I'm very particular about the mom friends I have. We other mamas need to make sure that other mamas are doing right. We need to speak up and say something because it is our responsibility. I don't care if it's something going on in a grocery store. I'm going to say something to that mother. She might not like me. She's not, but the child sees somebody defend them. And that can make all the difference in the world.
Thank you, Erica K.
I love it. You see, that's passion, and I love that.
And you know what? Those are the things, the advocacy, right? The communication, the calling, calling it what it is, right? The challenging. And those are the things that I think get people like us in trouble, in the sense that even our own family members start labeling us as a troublemaker. Like every time you come around, I know I've been told, every time you come around, there's always a fight at home. And you know what I say to them? I was like, no, honey, every time I come around, I speak the truth. And that's what makes you upset. Because nobody else is talking back to you when I'm not home and present to name out injustice. I'm not here to say to you, no, that is not okay. And it could be the simplest thing, like pick up your plate after you ate. I refuse to enable your behaviors of dysfunction. So thank you. Thank you for all of you. I know each one of you has a strong voice, which is why we're here. Right? And we're using that voice to make a difference in this world, especially for those that can't stand up for themselves. Right? So, Lorianne, it's your turn. What would you want to add to that?
I think she may have froze.
I think she is frozen. Yeah, because she's still at that smile. And she knows, because you know we hang out on a personal level too, so she sees some of it. Okay, so I mean the somatic symptoms, our body, you all are familiar with Our Body Keeps a Score. That's an amazing book that I think everybody should read. So what I would really just want to add, as we just kind of tie all of that together around like what to look out for, right? So there's internal symptoms, there's external symptoms, right? So one of the things that often happens, and you see this a lot, is when we get a family or when we get a child, one of the first things I've learned is whatever those behaviors are for that child is a symptom of what's going on in the household. And
1,000%.
Erica K, you're saying things, but I want you to know you're mute.
Well, I try not to, I got a big personality and we all on the panel. So I just try to keep myself. But if you can read lips, I said period. With a T.
Can you imagine all of us with big personalities? Listen, we got to talk more about this offline.
We do.
But
we do.
There is usually one child, if not a few, right? But there's usually one child that becomes the identified child. Okay. That identified child is so symptomatic, whether it's depression, anxiety, panic attacks, substance use, right? Inappropriate acting out behaviors, aggression, whatever it is, that child, that person is symptomatic of what's going on in the household. And they bring their family to therapy. And I've seen this in adults too. It's not just children. Adults are symptomatic, right? So imagine carrying all this around, right? Imagine that. And it's years and years and years of trauma and conflict and dysfunction. Doesn't happen overnight. So yes, for children, some of the main things that we do see is, first thing, drops in grades. Their grades have changed one way or another. Their sleeping patterns, right? Nightmares, right? A lot of individuals see oppositional behavior, whatever that means, right? Oppositional behavior, disrespectful behavior. They act too grown. They talk back to me. Well, I'm sorry. Last night you were just telling them about your friend and what just happened, and you just cross these boundaries all the time. but you want them to listen when you want them to listen, but they're your friend when you need a shoulder to lean on, right?
I deal with that theme all the time, Dr. Q. In my adult patients working through EMDR, and again, that stands for people not familiar with that modality. It is the gold standard for treating PTSD, and it stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And it is a somatic-based approach that also combines neurology. So the concept of exploring the memories that are in the body, as you mentioned with Bessel von Kolk, and his work with The Body Keeps the Score, the idea being that through a series of activations and desensitizations, we walk this person back through the trauma so that they can finally file it in an appropriate place in the brain, not the amygdala, which is our fight or flight center, right? So when I'm working with those adults who are overcoming childhood experiences, it's not often it's this big glaring abuse scenario. Mom was taking a shoe to me and beating on me, but it was like this. I knew all of my mom's boyfriends and what they bought her for dinner and what she likes. And I was such a special grown-up kid that I started getting left alone whenever I was 12 and 13, and I'm raising my 10 and 11-year-old. And so they're getting these dual messages of, don't you be too grown, but you better be grown. Right. And so these messages get stuck in a person and they show up as core negative beliefs of, I'm not good enough, I don't belong, the world isn't safe, I'm responsible for everything. And so if we allow children to just be children and we teach adults how to regulate, communicate, and attune, we stand a much better chance at heading some of these things off. And so I bring that part up because, again, I think that, because of maybe like movies and talk shows and just like culture in general, we tend to think that it's these big events, somebody's been beat on, somebody has been assaulted sexually or something. And it can be these micro events that add up over time that really, really take an impact on a person's body, mind, and spirit.
Yeah. The parentified child. Yes. I want to actually loop that back to some cultural stuff, but Lorianne, thank you for coming back. We had lost you a little bit. So yeah, I wanted to give you an opportunity to share your thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Where are we now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yes. So I got cut off when we were talking about the symptoms in the kids. And
yeah, so like, what are your takeaways? What are some takeaways, as in like, what are some things that you look out for, things that you've seen when we're trying to, identify some signs?
So I was thinking about this when both Ericas were talking, and I was I'm in full agreement with what you guys are saying. I remember this child I work with. He was adopted, and his adopted mom passed, I think, a year before I met them. Two boys. There were two boys, and I think one was Asian, one was Hispanic, but they were both adopted, from the same mom, and they were now with the grandmother. One of the things he used to do is when grandma was sleeping, he would take like it's like a little pin or something, and he would cut her clothes in tiny spots. And he consistently did that every night she was sleeping. And then it progressed to him now. He would kind of slice her skin just a little bit. Not enough for her to wake up, but enough to whatever he was getting from that. Just enough for that. But he was the sweetest little kid in school. His grades were fine. He fought nobody, got into no fights with anyone. He was very focused. But at home, how he was expressing his anger, his frustration, or his abandonment was by doing that. And it was very intriguing to me because I've never saw anything like that. And she would show me the clothes where little pieces, it just tiny pieces, he would do it. And then eventually it went over to him doing it on his own clothes. And then eventually it went over to him, kind of cutting himself. And this is when I was working with them in PRP. So both of them were severely traumatized. I do know their birth mothers were on drugs, and they were born with drugs in their system. I forgot what kind. I think it was cocaine or methamphetamine. They were both born with the drugs in their system, like two different mothers, but they were both born with the drugs in their system. And grandma didn't know what to do. And so it took a few years to with the therapist, PRP, and everybody working with these kids to actually help. The other one was more aggressive. He was fighting everybody. But the smaller one, the other one, he was very, I don't know. I knew it was the trauma he endured. We don't know the full dynamics of what happened when they were little. I don't know if there was molestation, but there was physical abuse with whatever family they were put with when they were younger. But those were some of the symptoms. That was the symptoms that was very intriguing to me that I saw in a child that was expressing, how he was truly feeling.
Yeah.
I want to mention that, to go back on that, there is a lot of parents that are comparing their kids, and that's causing issues with children as well. Because then they get into a spiral of always comparing themselves to something else and never really getting to know themselves. That's a thing. When there's also one child that is the scapegoat, right? Everybody always pushes everything towards that child, like it's always their problem. Then you have this golden child who they do nothing wrong, but that one gets away with so much stuff that they're the ones doing a lot of the stuff. And I always get the one that's the scapegoat, like, you got to do something with this person, with this little boy. And I'm looking like, no, I got to do something with y'all, because y'all got a problem. You all probably need to get divorced and everything else, because this is the problem. Because he's looking at me like, so you told me to set boundaries, but nobody in the house is setting boundaries. You told me, and I'm saying, listen, we don't have the family come in here because they have to do with what you're doing too. We're working together. But I mean, this is a lot of things going on, and it all stems from the parents bringing people into the world and not already being on their healing journey. You have to do the work. I'll have to say, in being a mother, I'm a very intentional mother, have always been that way. So it's all another thing, a lot of things are going on in school too. My daughter went to elementary school, okay? They had boyfriends, they had all kinds of things going on. They was slicking edges and not reading. I mean, serious. It was a lot going on in that. I knew about it because I was like, girl, what's going on there? I was like, I was getting the tea every night. I mean, every time we got out of school. So I knew what was going on. But I was like, do the guidance counselor? She says, guidance counselor don't count. I be sitting under the tree talking to them. Sexual abuse is happening. All kinds of stuff is going on with them kids. They had me coming there so many times. I say, I don't work here. Like, this is not okay. I'm trying to make sure my daughter's all right. That's it. But I'm the only Black mama showing up in there. Okay, I'm going to say something about that too, because there's a lot of parents who are just not present. They'll just show up. They'll put their child in school. And then they think that school is supposed to be able to handle their mental health, their education. The teachers are stressed out. It's a lot going on. And the thing that we have to make sure is we have to call out all these things on a regular basis as we see them. You got to be passionate about it. These are our babies. This is the future. And these parents have to get themselves together. They need to be doing the work. So you have to call them out. I'm talking about everybody in the family. No more sweeping things under the rug, letting the uncles molest children and all kinds of stuff that's going on. That's why people are bringing things on to the future.
Yes, it's generational. And to piggyback off Erica K, something that you said earlier, when we were talking about your daughter being present. This is such a big topic, and it's such a crucial topic. Because I don't personally see a lot of people like advocating for kids, and even the family system is to make the family system whole again. And I do know there's little pockets of people that are say, okay, we got to make a change. Like for myself, I noticed a pattern and I said, I have to make a change for my child. And funny you said it earlier, because I was talking to my daughter this morning, because I was like, let's drive. We're going to have just family time, because she has this game on her phone where she plays. So she's almost a billionaire. And she's like, Mommy, I got to do business. I said, okay, but sometimes we got to put business aside and just have family time. She's like, I want to talk to you. I was like, wow. I said, what sort of time you wanted to talk to me? Like, you told me, Mommy, you don't have time for me. I said, why do you think I'm so flexible? Why do you think I'm working from home right now? I'm like, I did these things because I heard my child at 4 and 5 say, Mommy, you don't have time for me. So I said, okay, that was a cue to me, Lori, you got to do something. I don't care what you got to do. You got to shift your life, because that was a cry. And I knew if I did not listen at that moment, 5-6 years down the line, I would regret, because then she would have grown up 18, 20 years old and said, well, you didn't spend time with me. This is why I had to seek attention elsewhere. This is why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. So when she would say that at 4 or 5, I said, nah, you got to set yourself up, because I needed to make sure I can't be out here, as you said, Erica, I can't be taking care of other people's children and mine is suffering. So that was a wake-up call for me. But even working with families, I know a lot of people don't have the ability to say, okay, I'm going to go into a career field where I'm going to work from home. Because, a lot of families, unfortunately, they're the ones that I work with, they're on the underserved population side. So they don't have.
Oh no.
That highway is not doing her justice. But like, I meant to say this to Lorianne earlier, like our dedication, guys, like our dedication to be here.
Yes, she is fighting through this.
Can you hear us?
I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Okay. We can't hear you.
While she works on that audio, piggybacking off of something that Erica Kessie said about these family systems and, dealing with these parents and calling it out. I did not know, and no one knew in Louisiana in 1983, that autism existed in girls. That was a boy thing. And I was weird, okay? Beyond weird. I could read at 3, but I couldn't touch anything that was sticky or have loud noises. Fast forward to my own motherhood, I have a son who's exactly like me. He's walking around on his tiptoes. He's plugging his ears. He's tantruming. He's self-injuring. He's doing the things that his mother did. So my family back at home says, you just need to whip his ass some more, because that's how Louisiana does it. Okay? That's what fixed me. Don't you know? Don't you know? And so I was told very early on that going with all this therapy, I was going to end up with a child who's in lockup, who's in juvie. I am happy to say my 15-year-old son on the spectrum just won an award for Algebra Student of the Year. He has no medication, no IEP, and we do not lay hands on that boy. And I get emotional thinking about it because this ended on my watch.
Wow. Amazing. I mean,
congratulations.
Amazing.
Awesome. That's what I'm talking about. There is, everybody always want to give somebody some medicine. Instead of knowing people out, distract people, misdiagnose them, do things that are just not necessary. How about you? I tell moms, give each child 15 minutes. Just 15 minutes of undivided. You not be on your phone. You just tracking them.
Yes.
I had a lady who had 5 kids. I told her to do that too. She did that. And there was so much unity in her household after that. She gave them each 15 minutes.
Yes.
And there's research that says this as well. You don't even have to give them a lot of time. You just have to give them dedicated, intentional, quality time.
Because they want to feel heard. They want to feel just like us as adults. We want to feel heard. Exactly. We want to feel respected. We want to, you know, we wanna, no, nobody likes the feeling of abandonment or rejection. It's a core that hits your soul, and it's very, very painful. And when abandonment and rejection is there, other voices starts talking to you and telling you you're not this, you're no good, and then you, it's so loud, you start to listen to it, and then you listen to it, you believe it, and then when you believe it, it's in your belief system, and it's in your belief system, you start to become it, and you start acting like that thing, all because mom or dad did not listen. Mom and dad did not pay attention. They didn't tell me I'm beautiful or I'm handsome or anything like that. And I think we need more parenting classes. It's like we need more parenting. A lot of
It's
us,
like you
trust
gotta
me,
have
we
a
don't know how
license.
to be.
Yes, they
Gotta
need
have
to
a
get them
license
when
to
they after
drive.
they give birth.
Before, because you got to have a
Before, I
license to
agree.
drive, you have to have a license to practice, you have to have a license to run a forklift. Why you ain't got to have a license to run a toddler? What do you mean?
Or some form of certificate, right? Like some form of certification, right?
I'm
And I
certified to be a parent.
And I completely agree, Erica S, Erica K, and Lorianne. We do need a lot more parenting resources. And Dr. Tanya Farron, I have to mention, you know, she was able to attend, but she would have been a great addition because she's on the education side too, right? So there's so many layers, which is why when I made my flyer, I was like, what do I want to write that's catchy? And all what I instantly came up with, it takes a village to heal a child. Yes, it takes a village to raise a child, but it takes a village to heal us. It takes a community to heal us. And there's so many different layers. And we've made so many points here that we can't go in depth with. Yet, just the mere fact, right? When we're talking about, you know, some people see premarital counseling now, right? Great. What about pre-parenting classes, right? Why not? If we go to school to become A, B, and C, why shouldn't we get the resources and the learning and the skills we need to become a parent? But no, it is one of the most natural thing that the human condition can do. It happens so naturally. You don't listen, you can have cognitive abilities on all different levels. You can be you know, you can not be able to speak, you may not be able to hear, you may not be able to do certain things, right? The abilities that we have as humans, but everyone knows how to have sex. You just learn it. And with sex comes children. And yes, do
I
I believe that parents are doing better? Absolutely. I think you guys, all three of you, and hopefully me soon in the next year, year and a half, you have lived experiences and you're making a difference. And you're doing
Mhm.
this from your lived experience too, because each one of you is breaking intergenerational patterns.
Yeah.
And Erica S, I guarantee you, part of your success is related to that, possibly that physical discipline you may have gotten, because someone wants to take the credit for something.
Oh, I assure you they do. And I think it's like this too. You know, it takes a village to heal, as you say. I think we're also missing a tremendous amount of resources. And when we think about, you know, cutting access to various forms of birth control, forcing birth, if we're going to make this the new norm, then we might as well go ahead and lay in that infrastructure with these big, beautiful bills. And, you know, I think too, when we are talking about children's mental health in general, yes, parents are getting better. The way that I teach parents about how this gets better is that you become the parent that you needed. That was a major wake up call and a breakthrough with my own motherhood. I was reading books, I was listening to other psychologists. I was trying to do it perfect, right? When I was doing my own work and I was doing the inner child work that Erica Kessie speaks to, I knew that I didn't have time to raise two children at once. I couldn't raise myself and this boy at the same time. And so through him, I became the parent I always needed. And that was the real progress. And that has changed everything for everyone.
I want to touch on Dr. Q, when you said about the village. This is why I'm on the side of the road, the village piece, right? So I have a client. Her 6 kids were just withdrawn from school, and I was on a session with her. She's bawling profusely. So I swing across Maryland to find out what is going on. I've had conversation with the school prior. As a mentor, because I'm the kids therapist, to see what we can do to help these kids to get more resources. So the school decided they're just gonna kick these 6 kids out because there were 10 consecutive days absent, and I know for sure they were not, because I've been in contact with them every single week. So as the village, that broke my heart, and I was very upset because the school system, I do not believe some of the school system is prepared, or the principals or teachers have the patience for kids that are going through mental health issues, or even the parents for that matter. And I knew this mom, she really tried to get these kids to school. And yesterday when she went there, they just gave her a manila envelope with handwritten on it, WD, kids withdrawn, and just handed her no dates. They were withdrawn. She said May 8th, but then the cross out on the line put May 9th. So I'm like, y'all don't even know why you're withdrawing these kids. But I believe the principal just doesn't want to deal with it anymore. So get them out of my school. 18 days left in school. Principal just doesn't want to deal with it anymore. So she said, you know what, get out of my school. And now I have to run. I ran up there because I'm like, this is unacceptable. I need records. I need all of these things. Again, with the other resources, the PRP workers, we contacted the superintendent because we needed to know what is going on. But I've seen this in multiple kids that I work with, and in the school system, which is supposed to be part of the village. They don't have the patience. It's either they don't want it, or they just don't have the capacity to help these kids, because it's not my problem, it's the parents' problem. And if the parent is trying, the school is not matching the parents. The school is almost as if it's becoming defensive, like, get your kid out of my school. I don't have time for this. There's 700, 1,200, 1,800 more I got to deal with. Why do I need to pay attention to your child? And then that child gets pushed to the side, and then it's like re-trauma all over again, because if mom is behaving like this, if dad is behaving like this, and now the school doesn't want me, nobody wants me. And then they start internalizing that. And that was one of the real thing that got me rushed up here today, because I'm like, you don't know the damage. 6 of them, six, not even 1, 6. I'm like, you don't understand the damage that you took this action against these children. It's not even the mother. And you don't know the damage that you just caused for them. Now it's going to be extra work to get, to build them back up to feeling like they're even worthy of anybody's attention, affection, or help. So the village is very important, but I don't believe the village is educated or equipped enough, especially in this generation, in this age, to assist these kids. So it's always one piece is doing fine, but the other piece is broken. So I think it's the how does everybody just put aside their selfishness and just work together for the betterment of these kids?
Yeah.
I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Thank you for sharing that, Lori.
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I just want to mention that there is compassion fatigue that's happening with a lot of people. I have experienced it several times trying to work with kids. The system, they don't have it. They don't have the bandwidth at all. And so they need somebody who has enough energy and gusto to really truly kind of push things, even though nobody wants to push things. But this is what I say. It's kind of like that starfish situation. You gotta throw the starfish in. Each one of us, when we see a starfish, pick that sucker up and throw it back into the ocean, because we have to save whatever we can. And that's what I do. As I walk along, I just want to be there, be present, and be able to give whatever I can give to each one. But before I can do anything, I must be overflowing. That's the problem. They're not overflowing. They haven't filled themselves up. So they're pouring from a cup that's empty. The leaders must not do harm. Therapists, all of coaches, all the people, parents, you cannot do harm to others. The way you can stop that is to be healthy yourself and be a place where you have done your work. You love and like yourself, you know yourself, and you're overflowing before you even decide to do anything for anybody.
Mm-hmm. Erica, you nailed it. And I would want to add is that has to do with our own traumatized self, right? Systems are made out of people. People experience trauma. People don't work on their trauma. So they perpetuate the cycle of trauma personally and professionally. And because we are a society that feeds off of everything, is cyclic, right? Micro and macro levels, right? We are working in traumatized systems with traumatized individuals who impact other individuals. That's that. And even when we go back to what you mentioned, you had mentioned earlier, right? When we're talking about moms, right? We're talking about parenting. I want to also highlight that mom who's suffering postpartum depression, that mom who cannot get up, or that parent, that mom who has PTSD. Okay, so there are selfish parents out there, yet there are parents like this mom of 5 children who wants to do the right thing, yet the system keeps kicking you while you're down.
It's a very bizarre.
Who cannot legitly show up because of their own mental health. They just cannot.
Well, and it's like a very bizarre theory about how the system works, and that they want it to be some kind of meritocracy, that to show that you deserve a resource, you must be good enough for said resource. Well, that's like building a building at the top down. Okay, so you have, I mean, Maslow's hierarchy, so you have to lay that foundation to get to those higher levels of actualization. And so whether it's food stamps, whether it's Medicaid, whether it's WIC, these are very concerning times for these programs that are, again, who's going to lose? The people that are passing these budget cuts think that this is going to motivate people to go out and leave their children and go to work for minimum wage. Who's actually losing here? These children who are hungry, these children who don't have adequate resources, these children that don't have transportation to and from school, because these children didn't ask to be born into a system that doesn't want them. And so I think, no matter what our modality is, what our purpose is, the fact that we are continuing to work within these systems shows a lot about our resiliency and how hard-headed we all are, right? And I want to mention something that we do over here in case y'all ever do this. It's a wonderful tool in our community. We call what is called a system of care. So this is multidisciplinary. We will bring in the school, we'll bring in the psychiatrist, we'll bring in the therapist, we'll bring in the social worker, we will bring in children's division, youth services. And when we have this child that's non-compliant and showing out and doing all the things, we bring the village to them. And we call this wraparound care. We wrap that family up in our care, not to enable them, but to teach them how to fish.
And we do that. We have wraparound care. Oh gosh, I must be having bad experiences because we have wraparound care. But it brings me back to what one of them. Maybe it's compassion fatigue, or maybe just one of those systems. If one falls out, we are stuck. And I've had meetings. Oh my goodness, I've had meetings with different agencies and around certain families, and one of them just don't care. And it's like, we can't move unless the whole system is moving with us. We cannot help the family if it's housing, if it's psychiatry, if it's mental health, if it's PPW, if it's PRP, whatever it is. We cannot fully move successfully with this family. The family cannot move if all the system is not working. And from my experience, some of them, oftentimes one of them is out, and it grinds my gears. But they just decide, I had a housing agency told me to tell, huh?
They throw in the towel.
Yeah, I had one agency told me just tell the family to leave the county and go find another, go to a different county because we don't have the resources for them. Maybe I've been having some very bad experiences, and I was livid because she was the director. She was the director of the homeless shelter, and I said, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Ma'am, I'm trying to grab everybody together for this." She told me they need to go to a different county for resources. At that point, I said, I can't, because y'all don't give me headaches and migraines. I cannot. And it broke my heart so much because I wanted to help, but everybody else but that system, so the system fell apart because everybody was not working towards the betterment of the family or the kids.
So I want to pause here, and again, you guys just make so many amazing points that I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly where I am, right? You're thinking just like me, and I don't have to be the one to say it, right? But we are out of time, guys. It's 2:02. This is so amazing. And what I want to do is, if all three of you are okay and you have like 60 more seconds, what would be if you were to pick one thing, and we've named a lot of things we can do today, right? Named a lot of things, but what would be that one primary thing that you want the parents and the adults to know as it pertains to the message you're trying to get across there? And mine obviously is, it takes a village to heal a child. So I'm already taking that. What is yours?
I think mine would be, well, to the parents, and I think someone else said it, to be the parent that you wanted. Mine would be is just get help. Get help. Your child deserves the world. Your child deserves care. You deserve to have a successful human being that will thrive in this society, that will make you look back and smile. So get help, whatever the help looks like. Get yourself healed so you can pour that into your children. Mothers and fathers, aunties and uncles, grandparents, whoever is keeping it, all the family dynamics, get the help you need, and don't be so proud. Oh, I don't need a therapist, or I don't need whatever the help is, because it's not about you anymore. It's now about the generation behind you that's coming up. So get the help, pour into these children for them to be successful. That's what I would say.
Great. Erica's?
Get it, girl.
I'll go. I would say, going back to what you said about thriving, I created a tool called the Thrive Plan. We have a plan for everything, right? You plan what socks you have on. I plan to have this flower in my head. Why don't we have a plan to thrive? What happened to me is I lost a child from an ectopic pregnancy, and I lost my will to live. In losing that child, I said, I need to do a safety plan because I've lost my will to live. And while I was doing it, I said, why don't we have a preventative tool instead of a reactionary tool? So I created the Thrive Plan. I put it in the chat. It's for anybody to get. If you have a conflict, what does it look like in your body? How can you soothe yourself so that then you can come out of that feeling instead of going towards your trauma reaction? And then who supports you? It's so important to have a social support system. A parent should make sure that they have a social support system and their children do too. As a single mother, I've always made sure my daughter had a male role model. That's just what I knew to do for her, as well as other people who were healthy in her life. It is your responsibility to plan to thrive.
Yes. All right, take it away, Erica.
I love what everybody has said, certainly. And I think my challenge to any parent today, whether their child is experiencing mental health symptoms or not, is go outside and talk to your child. 10 minutes, give them your face. uninterrupted, eye contact, arm on the shoulder, a hand on the shoulder, and finish that conversation up with a statement that says, I am proud of exactly who you are, and I'm so glad you're in my life. When we treat our children like that every day, not only are you growing that child's foundation, their confidence, that child will come home to you and bring you grandchildren and visit on the holidays. And so this is why most of us became mothers. We desire an entire family system for the duration of the life, right? And so if you want your children to come home, you must get to know them right now before it's too late. We get 18 short summers if we are lucky enough. What is 18? Nothing, right? Make every day a point to make eye contact, to touch that child and let them know, I love who you are.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ladies. We're gonna thank you. I think this was
Thank
such
you,
an
Dr.
amazing
Q. You're amazing.
conversation.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here and taking out the time. Like, even in the midst of
Thank
a
you
crisis,
so much.
Lorianne, you could have easily been like, I have a crisis going on, right?
I'm saying,
But
a
and
word.
this is again the power of virtual, right? The virtual
Yes.
world. Yes. It's doing a lot of exposure, unneeded, traumatizing exposure, but this is how accessibility, right? So with that, ladies, have a wonderful Friday. I will be back on Tuesday with Dr. Tanya Farron for maternal and paternal health at 7 p.m. EST. And I will also be back next Friday to tackle men's mental health at 12 p.m. EST. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Bye, guys. Take care.
Bye.